Hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge back once again on another gloomy day here in the UK, and we are continuing our ongoing weekly series Valiant to the Last with yet another Deluxe Edition, and today we are looking at Shadowman Deluxe Edition Volume 2. Apologies for the shadows on the table that I'm working on. As I say, it's a bit of a gloomy day here and I'm relying on natural light. However, let's take some irony in the fact that it's slightly shadowy for a Shadowman video. No further ado, let's jump into it. This is the Deluxe Edition. Out of print, as per standard. Not as much of a wear as some of the others. This is the cover, really like this. This is a variant cover for issue 16 of the series within. Cover, banner, top, Deluxe Edition 2. Standard spine, Deluxe Edition 2. This is the second and last Deluxe Edition of this format and of this run. And then splash in the back, usual blurbs and so on. If we look at the French flaps, we've got standard French flaps, slightly wide, slightly weirdly formatted, as we've seen before in a couple of them, but then black end leaves, and here, French flap and black end leaves. So not like last time where there was a weird printed end leaf. So, moving that out of the way, what do we have? We have Shadowman. Again, this is just blocking, it's not even in black foil, and it's just Shadowman logo with a cool little detail there. Looking at the spine, standard for spines of this era. Can you see? I think you can see, yeah. So it's blocked in there. And then a nice clean back. Okay, so getting into it. Book 2. What issues are continued? Well, as mentioned last time had 2 final issues at the end which were just kind of by themselves. That then continues here. We've got Shadowman number 11 and Shadowman number 12. Now, these are called the Deadside Blues arc, but as far as I'm aware, that actually Deadside Blues as a trade paperback contains 9-10 from the last hardcover and then 11-12 from this one. But anyway, here they are, 11 and 12, Deadside Blues. We then move into the next big arc, which is called Fear, Blood and Shadows, which is the issue 13X, which is weird, we'll talk about in a second. Apparently this is the first time this has ever been reprinted anywhere. I don't really know what that means, but there we are. And then we have issues 13, 14, 15 and 16. And then what happened, so that was the end of that particular series, and then subsequently another series came out called Shadowman End Times. This is a mini-series because it's only 3 issues long, and that's collected here with a one-shot, which is a Punk Mambo issue 0. Punk Mambo being the woman on the cover with the pink Mohican that we saw earlier. And that's just issue 0. Kind of an origin story for her. And then we've got the usual gallery bits and pieces. Okay, is that in focus? It is in focus, excellent. So, with the contents out of the way, let's look into it. Deadside Blues, there are the covers. Standard kind of formatting, and then it goes straight in here. This is a Halloween spooktacular. Always a sign of low quality when they make a spooktacular pun for Halloween. This is a one-shot issue of just Shadowman doing his thing. As you can see here, pretty much standard, competent artwork. And then Shadowman 12. This is, I guess, a one-shot standalone. It contains 3 complete tales with these writers and artists. The only one of these that I actually know is Kathu, who actually did the artwork on Imperium. But anyway, this just contains some short stories with, as you can imagine from these kind of anthology stories, differing artwork, different kind of tones and premises behind them. Yeah, I mean, look at this. It's all very, very unique. And then we have the Fear, Blood and Shadows arc. Now, this is a new creative team led by Peter Milligan. And it's a 5-issue arc, which takes us into issue 13X, as it says here. Apparently, never before reprinted. What does that mean? So, issue 13X is here. 13X is basically kind of like an origin recap story of what happened in the previous 12 issues. I guess it makes sense, given this is now heralding a new creative team. It also kind of changes some of the sort of context and background to Jack Boniface. I suppose I've been avoiding it. I'm just going to get straight into it. What do I think of this comic? If you recall last week, I made a joke about how I once went to buy ice cream somewhere and I wanted cappuccino ice cream, and I asked the guy, "Do you like it? Is it any good?" And he was like, "No, it's terrible. I can't stand it. It's disgusting. But I don't like coffee." And I was like, perfect recommendation. I bought it. It was great. You've got to always consider the provenance of the opinion you're getting. If someone says that they completely hate Mario games and therefore they hate a particular Mario game, That doesn't really tell you much other than it's like other Mario games. So you've always got to keep that in mind, and I very much like to keep that in mind with my opinion now when I say this comic fucking sucked. This new creative arc by Peter Milligan, it just was not. I just didn't enjoy it at all. As a result, given that I generally really dislike supernatural comics, this may be right up your street. But for me, I'll put it this way: the first arc that we saw last time round in the deluxe edition from last week was superheroes, but through a relatively conventional lens. It was superheroing with magic, but it was still very much on the superhero side of things. In that sense, it was very much like something like The Darkness from Top Cow Comics, which I've read and done a reading guide for and stuff as well, which is definitely supernatural and mythical and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's still very much kind of a superhero comic on the down low. So that's what the previous arc was like. This is not like that. What happens here is this is very much a supernaturally rooted comic, and it's got sort of very different artwork, very different writing, and I just did not enjoy it. I pretty much didn't enjoy it from the beginning, because straight away here with issue 13X, you've got a completely different dynamic for the main character, Jack Boniface. They essentially retcon a lot of his background personality, a lot of his background history, in a way where I was kind of like, dude, if you were going to do that, why did you just not write a different character? Why not ruin a character? Why ruin a character that was working fine in the original deluxe edition? So that was annoying. In addition, the action of Shadowman in these two one-shots is very, very bland. There's no real character to it, fine, fair enough. But then changing him into what they make him in issue 13X and then what he basically is for the subsequent issues 13, 14, 15, 16. It's just like, look, this is just random, chaotic, supernatural guff. It's just not my sort of thing. It steps much further away from that superhero slant on Supernature that we saw last week. And it just goes into a much more supernatural kind of era, which I just was not loving. It was basically something that I just find quite tedious, but I often find supernatural stuff quite tedious. So on that basis, if you're a big supernatural stuff fan, you may well absolutely love it. I really didn't. Then we get into End Times and Punk Mambo. So End Times is a 3-issue miniseries, which was, again, tedious. Tedious and not very interesting, and just felt quite haphazard and cack-handed in terms of his pacing and his characterization. Again, I don't really understand why they made him this kind of like angsty loser, which is clearly what they've done as part of this retcon of his personality and his background, which just seemed daft to me. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the writing. The artwork is nominally competent, although this style of artwork is not my favourite. Definitely not. And it was just, like, I just didn't get on with it. If I didn't already have this as a deluxe, well, I mean, let's be honest, I would buy it as a deluxe edition because I have all of them, but I definitely would not be bothered about making this as a deluxe edition or hunting it down for any other reason other than being a sheer completionist. So here we have it. That's Shadowman End Time, series 1 to 3. Definitely not recommended. Anyway, we then go into Punk Mambo 0. Now, take this however you want, but Punk Mambo I do like. As a character, she's basically like she's a bit like Constantine from the DC comic universe. She's a foul-mouthed British sorceress sort of thing. This whole issue, issue 0, is all about her backstory and how she eventually developed magical skills and so on. It's not bad, but having seen Punk Mambo in a bunch of other things as well, because she's kind of scattered throughout the Valiant universe, she's a decent, interesting character. I'd be much more interested in reading about her than about reading about Shadowman, because he's dull as shit. This is just much better. She's not a likeable character, but she's an interesting character. And I can't knock that, basically. So that's that origin issue, Punk Mambo 0. That doesn't lead into anything. There is eventually a Punk Mambo series. We're going to tackle that in a few weeks' time. But that came about way after this eventually got written and published. And then we have standard gallery features with a bit of DVD-style commentary right there. And here we have it. So that's my opinion and my thoughts of Shadowman Book 2. Just a big disappointment, and mainly because the creative team changed, and the creative team changed and took the story and the character and the characterization and the sort of the pacing and the style of this into a much more supernatural direction. If you're a big fan of supernatural stuff, Pete Milligan writes and has written a lot of supernatural themed comics, then yeah, you may well love this. if you didn't really enjoy the first deluxe edition, this might be way more up your street. If, like me, you thought the first deluxe edition wasn't bad, this is going to be a nosedive in quality. Sorry to say it, don't mean to be negative, but that's just how I feel. Like I always say, please keep an eye on what the actual source is, and oh, let's zoom in. There we go. Please keep an eye on what the actual provenance of the sources and what my opinions are and what my tastes are before you take my opinion with anything other than a pinch of salt. Cool. So where does this leave the character? Well, at the end of issue 3 of Shadowman End Time, we basically had like a big change to the story status quo of Shadowman, of where he is, what he's doing, who he's interacting with. And basically, I believe this then leads into the Rapture crossover, which I read as part of the Ninjak thread quite some time ago. But let's not think about that for now. Let's press pause on that for now, because what I want to look at next time, what your homework for next time is going to be, is the next comic that was published in terms of chronological publishing order in the real world, and that is the Life and Death of Dr. Mirage. I think that's what it's called. It's the only Dr. Mirage Deluxe Edition, with a really cool cover, and that is the next one that we're going to read for next week. So that's your homework. I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy that a lot more, because I have read a few Dr. Mirage related bits in the Valiant universe where she's intersected with other parts of the Valiant universe, like Faith, Dreamside, and things like that, and I very much enjoyed those. Whilst when I've read other bits of the Valiant universe where Shadowman is intersected, I've always been like, meh. So I'm hoping that the Dr. Mirage Deluxe Edition will be a bit of an anomaly, and it'll be a supernatural superhero book, which I quite enjoy. But we'll find out next week.
All right, thanks for watching, everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at I am Thomas Judge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.